Hi everybody, welcome to Raaonline. I am Dr. Priyadashini Shanmugam, Professor of Microbiology, and in this lecture we are going to talk about disinfection and the various types of disinfectants. And the learning objectives for this session will be: what is the definition of sterilization, disinfection, antisepsis, what are disinfectants, how we classify them, and then we have Spalding's classification. We will be looking into that also, of the different devices. Then individual disinfectants, a few points about them we will be seeing. Then we will also be talking about environmental and surface disinfection, including the theatre disinfection, okay, because that is an important part of the sterilization process. So when you say sterilization, it is a process by means of which all living organisms, okay, whether it is a bacteria or a spore, any living organism is removed from an article, a surface or a medium, okay. So there is actually no organism at all on the surface. So when you say that a surface is sterile, that means no microorganism is present on the surface. And what happens is, when you do sterilization, when you follow that procedure, it results in the reduction of more than 10 to the power of 6 log colony forming units of microorganisms and their spores. The agents which cause this or achieve sterilization are called as sterilants. So the process is known as sterilization and the agents are called as sterilants. Regarding disinfection, this is a process which removes most of all the pathogenic organisms, but it sometimes may or may not disinfect the bacterial spores. So you have a doubt here, not all the spores are removed as when compared to sterilization. So killing of infectious agents outside the body by direct exposure to either chemical or physical agents is only known as a disinfection, whereas sterilization was used to remove about 10 power 6 log colony forming units. Disinfection will reduce only to 10 power 3 log colony forming units of most of the microorganisms, but sometimes the spores will still be there. So this can be achieved by either a physical agent or a chemical agent, and they are usually, when you say disinfection, it is used on inanimate objects and not on body surfaces. So the agents which achieve this disinfection are called as disinfectants. So sterilization, sterilants, disinfection are called as disinfectants. And when you say high level disinfection, it means it can kill all the microorganisms with the exception of high number of bacterial spores. So the bacterial spore number may be reduced, but still spores may be there. And suppose you want to kill most of the bacterial spores, that means it will require extended exposure to this disinfection. So that is only known as high level disinfection, and it is achieved after thorough cleaning only of the organ of the surface with proper disinfectant or rather detergents. So exposure to some chemicals such as 2% glutaraldehyde, hydrogen peroxide 6% and peracetic acid. So these are the three chemicals which can achieve a high level disinfection, and it requires an exposure for a minimum period of 20 minutes. What do you mean by the term concurrent disinfection? Concurrent disinfection is when you start applying this disinfective measures, that is when you start performing the disinfective measures, soon after this infectious material is discharged from the body of an infected person. Okay, for example, suppose an article or an gets soiled with the infectious discharge of a patient, immediately when you apply some disinfectant to remove the ill effects of the organism or the infectious material, then you call it as concurrent disinfection. Okay, so all personal contact with such discharges or articles, we have to ensure that it is minimized. When you say terminal disinfection, as you know, terminal means it's almost at the end. So this is the disinfective process that is applied after that particular person or the patient has stopped being a source of infection. Either the patient have been discharged or maybe transferred to another ward, or the patient may have died. So usually when you say terminal disinfection, it's not practiced. What they do is a terminal cleaning. So they air the room, exposure to a lot of sunlight, then they clean the furniture and the bedding. Okay, and disinfection is not necessary for diseases, okay, some of the simple diseases, but for some of them it may be important. For example, if you take up this Lassa fever, where this infectious material may be present all around the patient who may have passed away due to that infection, you may have to do a terminal disinfection. Then regarding the types of disinfectants, this is also important. As I already told you, one term we used, high level disinfection we already used. So the disinfectants can be classified as high level disinfectants, intermediate level disinfectants and low level disinfectants. So when you say high level, it means it is capable of killing bacterial spores when you use it in sufficient concentration, suitable conditions including appropriate amount of time. Okay, they can kill all the other organisms also. Intermediate will destroy all the other microorganisms but not spores. And low level disinfectants, they are much less effective, so they destroy the vegetative bacteria, that means the vegetative forms of the bacteria. They can destroy enveloped viruses, but the action on non-enveloped viruses is variable, so sometimes they can be effective, sometimes they cannot be effective, and on fungi. But they do not have any action on TB bacteria, that is Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and on spores. So mainly you can see that this classification of disinfectants is based on whether they are able to kill spores or not, and second thing is their effect on the TB bacteria. So high level disinfectants will kill all the microorganisms including spores. Intermediate will kill all the microorganisms but not the spores. And low level disinfectants will kill the vegetative bacteria and enveloped viruses, but it will not have any action on spores as well as tubercle bacteria. So that is the classification.